So you are ready to start your learnings in Power BI, or just want to sharpen your data modeling, DAX, or DataViz skills, but not sure where to get the data from? Using the Adventureworks SQL database is too technical to you, or it might be just too boring, and you're looking for some fun project. I hear you. I also believe that if you start with a project that is close to your heart, it will be easier to master all aspects of Power BI. And for that exact reason, I would like to show you how easy it is to create a Power BI project based on technically anything around you. If you stay till the end, you will learn how to quickly spin up a project in Power BI to start with the basics. Or learn a bit more about DataViz. Or create a super fun data visualization project solving real-life challenges that you may face. Let's get started, shall we? Hello and welcome to BI-Lingual Analytics. My name is Roland and I'm here to help you to learn more about Power BI. If this is your first time around here, then please start by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons so you wouldn't miss my Power BI tutorials and shorts. It means a lot to me and helps others to find content like this. Many times I hear new report developers talk about the lack of data to use in Power BI. I have already shared a tutorial on how to create a large dummy dataset, so if you are looking for a sales dataset, make sure to check that video as well. But in this tutorial, I'm going to show you the details about the building or street that you live in could be used as a starting point for Power BI project. Let's head over to Excel first to explore this simple dataset. There are 3 blocks and 14 units in the building we live in. This is what you see on the screen right now. In each unit, there is a family with certain number of family members and with a flag whether they have kids or not. We live in unit number 14. And lastly, every resident or family members is listed on the last Excel sheet. That's where I also indicated their sex, age, and whether we have met before or not. So far, it's nothing special or extraordinary, right? If you think that you will be able to replicate this for your building or street, hit the like button. Let's import all of this to Power BI and start with some data transformation or data modeling steps to learn. Instead of clicking on the load button, let's start by transforming data. On the residence table or query, I'm going to add 2 new columns. First of all, let's create an age group field. You can start writing M code under Advanced Editor, or you can click on Add Column and Column from Example. I'm going to call this field Age Group, and look what happens when I add the first range here. Power Query is smart enough to auto-populate the rest. You can even have a sneak peek at the M code on the top of this section. Next, let's add a column to identify adults and kids based on age. Again, while you could write it in M, if you just start learning Power BI, don't be afraid to use the Column from Example button. Call the field adult/kid, and I'm just going to type in adult to the first line. Nothing happens. No worries, let's help Power Query a bit more to create the logic. Write kid to the third line. Still no luck, so let's write adult to the second line. Still not perfect, but look at the code again. We have a good starting point, and we can fine-tune it from here. Just change the age number to 18, and there you go. We just added a group based on the age field, and a flag to identify adults and kids without writing any M code. Isn't this great? Next up is a little bit of DAX practice. I'm not going to recreate all of the visual elements on the canvas that I have got for this demo to save some time, but I'll walk you through the examples. The first one is going to be a beginner-friendly data exploration or table-like experience to validate data and DAX codes. The second one is more about visualizing data, helping others find value from the data we used. And the last one is going to be a fun way of presenting data and finding insights within clicks. Let's hop back to Power BI. So what do we have here? A slicer for the block and another one for having kids. Below those slicers, I placed 4 tables showing different measures by unit. The first one is the total number of residents by unit and by block. The DAX behind this measure is a simple sum of the number of family members field from the table. The second table shows the number of residents by sex and by unit. This time around, instead of using a sum, I used a count formula to get this right. Then I have two more tables, both indicating the average age of the residents by unit. The first one is a plain average by unit. I mean, the DAX code itself is average. But the second one is where I introduced a calculate function to modify the average resident age to exclude kids. If you are just here in your learning, that's absolutely okay. Believe me, no one started their Power BI journey by creating and designing competition-winning reports. It's also a good way of getting familiar with the data you have and validating your DAX measures. I mean, in this example, I could easily go back to my Excel file and just confirm that those numbers that we have on the screen are the right numbers. And we have all the regular functionality here on the report page. I can select a block from the slicer to filter down the results to an individual block, or slice and dice the report page by families who have kids and those who don't. If I filter these tables to units or families without a kid, the two tables on the right, for average age, should show the same figures. Again, it's a great way of validating your data and measures. So far we have covered some data transformation and data validation steps. It is always good to cover the basics, understand your data, and get started somewhere. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, you can start thinking about ways of visually representing these numbers. Let me show you what I mean by that. On this report page, I have 5 visual elements sharing a similar story, but slightly differently. Allow me to go from left to right and top to bottom. First of all, I have a combo chart that shows the number of residents by block and the average age by block. The measure that I used here is slightly more complex, as I'm taking the average age measure and modifying it to only include a block level filter. This step will help me to always show the block's average age, even if I expand this visual to the units level. Next up, I have a donut chart with the sex split. If I select block C in the first visual, you can see how that donut is changing. If you only have a handful of values, you can go with a pie or donut chart. Those could be good DataViz options. Then on the bottom left, I have another average age visual by unit. But this time I'm further expanding the line values by looking at the average age by block without kids. And this is what the DAX looks like. This one shows units above and below the average age of the block without kids. And then a table to look at the families with kids and the age of those kiddos. I have a visual level filter on this visual on the adult kid flag to only show kids from the families. Let's say that if we were looking for friends who have kids within the same age bracket, we could easily find them here in this list. And lastly, on the right hand side, a multi-row card to highlight all of our neighbors we haven't met yet. In a sense, it could be a quick insight into how well we know the building. This example is a bit more advanced than the first one. It requires a better understanding of the data, what message you want to deliver to your report consumers or audience, and it's much closer to a report that has the potential to flag insights. And I reckon it just looks better. Less table, more DataViz. It does help to see behind the numbers or understand what they really mean. But what if you want to take the DataViz to a whole new level? What if you want to visually share insights with your report consumers? Well, in Power BI, you can do that as well. Here we are on the fun DataViz report page, where I try to combine everything that we have talked about before. And I added a picture of our building. If you wonder what tool I use here, it is Synoptic Panel from OKViz. We live in block C at the top floor apartment, but you can see all other families within the building and which unit they occupy. Let's start exploring our building by showing those families who have kids. Seemingly, in every building there are at least one family with kids. Next, filter this down to families who we met before or at least with one of the family members. And lastly, pick the age bracket we belong to, so 30 to 40. You see, Power BI can even help you find new friends with the same interest and within a similar age group that you belong to. Isn't that fantastic? Let's say that my partner would like to see if there are other moms within the building that we haven't met yet. She can do a similar filtering by selecting those options. After that, the visual will highlight those families with kids where we haven't met with the mother. I just love how easy it is to create a DataViz in Power BI with whatever data I have. I reckon none of you guessed that Power BI could be used to find new friends. Nah, I'm just joking. But with all seriousness, do not think for a moment that Power BI is all about Adventureworks or reports are always about sales and marketing topics. They don't have to be. If you have a topic that's close to your heart, start looking for data about that topic. We live in an age where there are lots of open source data, and you can and will learn Power BI quicker if you're interested in the topic. If you want to see more topics that are close to my heart, check out my DataViz playlist. You will find some interesting ideas and hopefully fun ideas about DataViz, or some inspiration about what's possible within Power BI. And with that said, I would like to hand it over to you. Let me know in the comments below what topic is close to your heart and how do you plan to visualize that using Power BI. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope that you learned something new and interesting from today's video and you will be able to implement this for your reports. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons before you leave or before you watch one from the above videos. Until the next one, see ya!